All right, thanks, Marilyn. We can get started. So my name is Justin Cannell. I'm the Veryant Business Development Director for North America. And my COBOL start came right around the time Micro Focus acquired AccuCorp. I just started at Micro Focus when they bought Accu around 2007, and I worked there until 2014 in various sales positions. Also on the call, we have Marilyn Prince, who's our Veryant solution architect. She has an extensive history as a COBOL developer, and she worked at AccuCorp as well before Veryant. Yeah, so before we begin, we have you can click on the chat button. There's on the right, there's also a link to the recording. We'll send out a link with the slide deck and handouts you can download as well off to the right. So who is Veryant? Veryant offers the technology you need to run your COBOL code successfully. We're a 17-year-old company with headquarters in Italy and the United States, and we have distributors all over the world. Here's a list of our offices in the US and Italy and active distributors across the globe. We have an office in San Diego, in the southwestern tip of the United States, and also we have our headquarters in Piacenza, the northern Italy region. And here are some of our customers, both corporate end users and ISVs, which are independent software vendors who depend on isCOBOL to power their products. And here's a few more of our logos. So Veryant's mission is innovation is our focus. We want to be the primary go-to COBOL software innovator, and our mission is to help organizations excel and increase revenues using their existing COBOL investments by offering a path to extend these applications. We believe that the way to deliver a powerful, flexible solution to businesses with valuable COBOL resources is by integrating COBOL and Java. Our compile process converts your COBOL code to Java code so that the final application is a Java application. We want to make that first conversion to isCOBOL easy because we believe we have a better product at a better price than our competitors. We also know how important it is to keep up to date with the newest versions of the tools we've incorporated into isCOBOL. So we support the newest long-term release of Java, as well as the newest version of Eclipse, which is the base of our IDE. And talk of modernization in the past meant moving from green screen to GUI, but now it means moving to a web page or running in the cloud. We've kept up with this modernization shift with several options for web enablement and cloud-based execution options. And Veryant is expanding its offering into the mainframe and rehosting markets where we're starting to make an impact with our products. We want people to say, wow, this is COBOL.
Well, thank you, Justin. This is Marilyn. I'm going to go over our product line. Our suite of products is called isCOBOL Evolve. The isCOBOL development environment includes a two-step compiler. Step 1, converting your COBOL to Java, and Step 2, using Java's compiler to create a Java class. Now, there are two graphical debuggers. One is internal to the IDE, and the other one is external. When you run it from the command line, you can debug local or remote programs. The IDE itself is built on top of Eclipse, a tool that a lot of developers are familiar with. We also offer an isCOBOL plugin if the developer already uses Eclipse for another language. We have a lot of tools to help the developer, like tools to generate Java code from your COBOL program that will help your Java developers interact with your COBOL developers. We have tools to generate COBOL file I/O from JSON, XML, SOAP, WSDLs, and relational databases. We have tools to generate object-oriented programming code to make your COBOL program a REST or SOAP service. We also have tools to generate XML and JSON from your data, or ESQL from your COBOL file I/O. And we have some tools to help you with testing and performance. code coverage to make sure that every line of code is executed when you're testing, unit testing, which is inserting test statements around a particularly sensitive or important unit of code. That helps you make sure that other development in other places doesn't break that particular unit of code. And the profiler, which measures how much processing time is spent in each program and each paragraph of the program. Remember, though the output is Java, you can still keep your COBOL code in COBOL. Your COBOL programmers don't have to know Java because all of the Java is under the covers. You can see it if you want to, but you're never going to touch it. And unlike other COBOL to Java converters, everything is converted and it works exactly as it's written. We guarantee it. Our runtime is a Java framework, a collection of classes that's used by the Java runtime. Now, this framework includes the application server, which is a multi-threaded server process used for distributed processing, in other words, running in thin client. The load balancer is a sort of a gatekeeper for the application server. You'd start more than one application server instance in one or more servers, and the load balancer redirects thin client connections evenly between those instances. And Veryant had the very first COBOL design to run on Android mobile phones. It uses the Android SDK with your choice of user interface software, like Dojo Mobile or jQuery Mobile, for example. Now, isCOBOL runs anywhere that Java runs. This screen lists some of the popular environments that our customers are using. And remember that classes that the compiler creates are completely portable, so you can develop in Windows and deploy in Linux, for instance. There are a lot of options for data handling. First, isCOBOL has two native options for your indexed files, JISAM and C-tree-RTG. JISAM is a Java-based ISAM file system. C-tree-RTG by Faircom uses indexed files too, but it's also a file server that adds a relational database layer, which gives you things like transaction processing and remote file access and SQL access and real-time replication. Now, if you have data stored in another COBOL vendor's file format, such as Vision or Micro Focus or RM COBOL's indexed files, you can use our file connectors to access the data in them until you can migrate the data to whatever form you're going to. And by the way, one of our tools, isMigrate, can convert indexed files from and to a lot of different forms, like other COBOL dialects and relational databases. Embedded SQL or eSQL is fully supported and it's included with the compiler. You can use our eSQL processor with all the popular databases, DB2, Informix, SQL Server, MySQL. Oracle is another one, and you don't need the Oracle precompiler. The runtime framework includes a special COBOL interface to DBmaker and btrieve, two fairly popular relational databases. And this means that you can use COBOL file I/O statements and access these databases. Now, if you don't have embedded SQL and you want to use a database other than DBmaker and btrieve, we have a product called the Database Bridge with a nickname of EasyDB. Your program uses COBOL file I/O, and the Database Bridge generates a bridge program that converts the file I/O to eSQL, all done at compile time. We have an ODBC driver to your JISAM and C-tree data, so you can access your data in Microsoft products like Excel and Word. We have a JDBC driver so that Java programs can access your indexed files. We have an ODBC server to run in any non-Windows environment so that you can still get ODBC and JDBC access to data outside of Windows. And if your data is in C-tree, there are even more drivers to connect other languages to your C-tree data, like VB, PHP, JavaScript, .NET, etc. Now, modernization used to mean converting your character screens to GUI screens. But recently, the customers I've talked to say that connectivity to different devices and in different places has become more important. People have moved away from their office desks into their homes, on their tablets or phones, or even in the office, but still moving around from desk to desk or building to building. And this makes running in the cloud and from a web browser pretty important. Now, because your compiled programs are Java classes, and Java is a modern mainstream programming language, all of our software can be run in the cloud on AWS, Microsoft's Azure, and Google Cloud. And they'll run exactly as they would have a server sitting in your office. As an example, we use AWS for a lot of things in-house. We run sales demonstrations, test in and out of Docker containers, and with the Tomcat web services. And we haven't found anything that you can't do in the cloud with isCOBOL. For running in a browser window, I want to start with the 3 web solutions that we have under our EIS product umbrella. Our original web solution is WebDirect, or WD2. Your GUI is converted to Java GUI controls by the compiler, and you deploy your Java program as a servlet inside of a web server, like Tomcat. You use cascading style sheets to customize the screen layout. Now, WebDirect has been our COBOL to web solution for a long time. It was introduced in 2009, and it's been updated in each version to keep it up to date. It's a solid, stable way to move your COBOL to the web, making minimal changes and still maintaining some control over the look and feel of the application. Now, we have a new solution that's similar to WD2. It's easier to use instead of WD2, and I'm going to talk about it in the next slide. COBOL is best at processing, and so a popular solution to keeping the business logic while modernizing is to make COBOL a back-end workhorse as a REST or SOAP web service. And this lets other languages like JavaScript or HTML5 and CSS do what they do best, make impressive interactive web pages. With the web language front end and COBOL processing on the back end, you've taken advantage of the best of both languages. The nice thing about services is that once you create the service, anyone can access its methods from any language. Now, because this requires object-oriented programming, we have a tool called the Service Bridge that writes that code for you. There's some effort needed for this type of deployment, but once the COBOL is amended to run as a service, it's almost maintenance-free. Object-oriented programming in COBOL can be learned pretty quickly, and it's used to create and access specialized servlets, which are the successors to applets and CGI. You can develop COBOL programs that act like a Java servlet and accept and send information back and forth to a web page as HTTP requests and responses. Now, one way to use this is to access Google, Facebook, Twitter, etc. to authenticate your users based on the OAuth 2.0 standard. You've probably seen this when you were asked to log in and given the option to use your Google or Facebook login. But by far the most popular of the isCOBOL web solutions is the web client. Now, similar to WebDirect, you can run your COBOL desktop application in a browser without any changes to your COBOL code. But unlike WebDirect, your screens appear exactly as they would display on a desktop. We're not converting your controls to another format. You don't need CSS or HTML or even Tomcat. The application is displayed just as you design it, both GUI and character. Also, you can embed or encapsulate your desktop application inside of a web page using any common web language like JavaScript or Python. Your isCOBOL application can interact with the underlying web page, and the page can invoke isCOBOL code. You can also host web components like Google Maps inside of your COBOL screen sections. And we've recently added clustering to our web client product, so now you can balance the client-side processing load among several servers. Now, in this screenshot, the menu on the left is written in JavaScript. It's populated with JavaScript after asking the COBOL program what it should display based on permissions. The top menu is also JavaScript, but the blue menu and the screen below it, as well as the pop-up window, are from our sample isApplication COBOL program. We've modernized the look and feel of the application, but not in the code. We didn't change the code. We just used a few configuration variables. This screenshot shows a character window launched from the graphical window in the background. Because the character window is modal and requires the user's attention, we've darkened the background window with a configuration variable to draw the user's focus to the character window. Now, both of these screenshots are from programs running in Web Client from our demo AWS. Now, we understand that the first large hurdle to take is converting your current code base to isCOBOL. And Justin's going to go over the benefits that we've added to isCOBOL to make this easier. Justin?
Yeah, so one of Veryant's major focuses has always been making the transition from other COBOL dialects to isCOBOL as easy and pain-free as possible. Our goal is to make your application run exactly the same with no or minimal code changes. And we're constantly adding functions, routines, and code behavior that makes us more compatible with these other COBOL vendors. Another advantage we have over the other COBOL vendors is our two-step compile process. COBOL to Java code and then Java to Java class. So many of the changes that might be necessary throughout your code can be made once in a configuration file. The compiler will apply the change to every occurrence in your code. We also offer a free code analysis to anyone to prove that making the switch to isCOBOL is easy. So what we'll do is we'll take your most complex or unusual programs and then compile them in isCOBOL. isCOBOL is a complete COBOL compliant product. We not only follow the COBOL 85 standard, we've added features from other organizations and from traditional legacy code, and we're constantly expanding our COBOL code coverage to include as many different flavors of code as we can. And I want to reiterate again, the COBOL to Java conversion takes place under the hood during the compile, so that is why you can still develop in COBOL but end up with a Java program. Your move to isCOBOL will be your last one. Veryant is constantly thinking forward, adding new features to modernize your programs and new ways to integrate them into modern environments. This includes integrating into a web environment, supporting any kind of data storage you need, and interoperating with other languages. We make it easy to use the power of COBOL in the background by creating a REST or a SOAP service in kind of a black box implementation, setting it up to continue working for you far into the future, no matter what your development plans are. Your Java classes can be compiled on any platform and run on any other platform. The classes are not operating system specific and will run anywhere that the Java runtime runs. And so if you want to do future development in Java, you can do it without converting your existing code. Your COBOL and Java can work side by side. The Java programmer sees your COBOL as a Java class with Java documentation that's familiar to them. Your COBOL programmer sees only their familiar COBOL code. The Java is invisible to them. Also, object-oriented programming COBOL is closely tied to Java, and so most Java programmers can understand and quickly learn how to object-orient programming in COBOL. isCOBOL provides a lot of the tools to connect your Java and COBOL programmers, like automatically generating Java class code for COBOL variables and data file descriptions. Eclipse is a common IDE for Java programmers, and since our IDE is based on Eclipse, the COBOL and Java programs can be developed together. So in short, the COBOL-Java connection is very, very tight in isCOBOL. And here's some of the features that will make you love our products. And I want to stress the features that make isCOBOL really stand out. You can compile and run on any platform that Java supports. Our IDE is based on Eclipse, which is the industry standard IDE for multiple languages, especially Java. You can use our extended GUI control set to write your user interface or write your UI in another language. Your COBOL can run in so many places with isCOBOL, everything from fat clients to web browsers. We also make it easy to convert your COBOL to services to be reused and interoperate far into the future. The compile once, run anywhere feature of Java makes your code 100% portable, and you have almost unlimited options for data storage. You've also got multiple ways to access your data offerings and a wide range of reporting capabilities. This year, Gartner calls Java the language of the enterprise, saying it will remain a formidable force within enterprise development. This means converting to isCOBOL will keep your COBOL relevant for years to come, including a smooth transition to web enablement. And the technical support at Veryant is excellent. They have decades of experience and a desire for our customers to be successful. Our techs also have extensive experience in object-oriented programming. Your newer programmers will love the ability to do object-oriented programming in normally procedural language. And with that, I'll turn it back to Marilyn.
Thank you, Justin. I want to talk very briefly about the new IBM mainframe migration efforts that Veryant has been taking. Getting off the mainframe isn't easy. There's a complex web of tools and systems like CICS and JCL and PL1 that need to be mimicked or replaced to be able to run on an open system like a Linux, Unix, or Windows, LUW, either in the cloud or in-house. But a lot of companies are considering it, either for cost savings, to add new capabilities, or for business agility and responsiveness. Now, there are three common options for migrating off the mainframe, and these are rewriting, rehosting, and replacing. I think the first and the third options are self-describing. Rewrite the whole thing, either in COBOL or a different language. Or replace the application with an off-the-shelf option, and then find the business logic in your code that's specific to your company, and pay the vendor to modify the application to match it. Both of these options include losing the money and the time that you spent developing and maintaining your COBOL code over the years. Rehosting is the middle ground between the two, and it's a way to keep your investment of money and time but still move forward. You migrate some or all of your application off the mainframe to an LUW environment, and you use a third-party software to emulate the mainframe. You continue to develop and execute as you always have, and the users don't see a difference. Rehosting is one of the most popular ways that we see enterprise companies using because it's simpler, faster, and it doesn't involve a partial or total rewrite of the application. Here are some of the benefits to rehosting. Because there aren't a lot of modifications needed, the solution is usually quick and easy. The cost savings from paying for MIPS to paying for third-party software and LUW servers is usually significantly lower. Often you can get an application performance boost because applying more memory and processing power is easy and cheap. And having the rehosting software handle some of the tasks frees up your developers to be more productive. So where does Veryant fit into the rehosting solution? Well, a large part of your mainframe application is in COBOL, and Veryant has partnered with rehosting vendors to provide the COBOL portion of their solution. ISG Research is an independent research company that recently researched mainframe modernization service providers. And they found that the future of COBOL is Java, which makes Veryant a natural choice for these rehosting vendors. Veryant has the experience, the multi-platform solution, and the affordability to work well with these rehosting vendors' solutions. We've been actively modifying our core technology to accommodate the minor unique differences of enterprise COBOL, and we're constantly increasing the compatibility between the mainframe and the LUW systems. Now, if you're interested in a rehosting option, we can answer your questions, and when you're ready, we'll connect you with one of our partners. If rehosting is too difficult, maybe because the mainframe application is too large to use these third-party softwares without affecting performance, or maybe you're just missing some source code, there's still a way to lower your MIPS and save money. You can develop offline using Zowie, for instance. You can switch to using mainframe in the cloud. Amazon says that will save you money. And you can relocate your batch processes to a zip CPU on your mainframe. Now, in this case, you're not changing the host, just the CPU. IBM has a different fee structure, so moving to the zip would save money, but IBM has defined what it allows on the zip processors. COBOL is not allowed. Java is. And this makes isCOBOL ideal to run COBOL batch processes in a Java environment on the zip partition of your mainframe for cost savings. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the future. We do have a lot of plans for the future. We want to increase our presence in the mainframe migration area, both the rehosting and the partial code migration to a zip partition that I just talked about. We are still evaluating our customers' desire or need for the Visual Studio Code integration, so let us know. As always, we will continue increasing the compatibility with the other COBOL dialects so that moving to isCOBOL will be easy. And we will continue to help our customers deploy in the cloud. And that means developing some relationship with third-party cloud companies. Now I'm going to hand it back over to Justin.
Thanks, Marilyn. Yeah, so I wanted to mention we are going to have a booth at the Scale conference, and Scale is the largest Linux open source conference in North America. It's going to be July 28th through the 31st in Los Angeles at the airport, Hilton. And so if anybody's going to be attending, please stop by our booth. Okay, some key takeaways. Your COBOL code is stable, complex, self-documented, and robust. So keeping it by switching to isCOBOL guarantees it will last far into the future. You can keep your application modern with isCOBOL. You've got multiple options for data storage with isCOBOL. You can keep your COBOL and Java programmers happy and interconnected. And the tight COBOL to Java integration means you can hire both new talent and also keep your COBOL code. It's easier than you think to move your application to the web and to the cloud. And you can also save money by lowering or avoiding MIPS with isCOBOL. But most of all, we want you to take away the fact that COBOL is still live and Veryant is actively keeping COBOL up to date and relevant with the latest technologies.